These beauty queens sport tobacco leaf swimsuits and were important components of promotions that permeated the warehouse towns. Each town claimed the best facilities, the highest prices, highest prices for the tobacco, the most reputable merchants, and the most beautiful women. Despite diversions outside the warehouses, the auction dominated the scene, and auctioneers were the aristocracy of the warehouse culture. Some auctioneers had almost godly reputations, and this is quoting one of the Durham people that Leonard interviewed. Herbert Baker was the best auctioneer I ever heard. He had the prettiest and softest voice, clear as a bell, and his lower jaw would be going like a sewing machine. When he came out on the floor, his clothes were pressed smooth, as if he were going to preach. And he wore a high starched collar with the tie right at the top. And after that, he was also twirling a hat as he walked down and did the auction. And as this person observed, people would come a long way just to hear him. From a voice standpoint, he was considered great. Some auctioneers would step out. Roy Daniel, Leonard learned, sold a whole big bull warehouse one day by 12:15, a feat that usually took until 3:15. Federal rules in the mid-1930s set sales at no more than 360 piles an hour. Do some dividing, and it comes to 6 sales a minute. Looked at another way, a farmer's crop got 10 seconds attention from the buyers. And now the famous witness will hear an auctioneer. Auctioneers and buyers had a reputation for drinking. A buyer from Imperial Tobacco admitted, when I get hold of that stuff, it makes me wish I had a neck a yard long and a taster all the way down. Rapport quoted another man that on the drinking habits of auctioneers. It looks like auctioneers just will drink. It looks like they take a drink and they come off the floor tired, and one drink leads to another. But then he added, but on the other hand, I never saw an auctioneer who didn't drink who was in account. Rapport introduced Walcott to the auction process. At the head of the procession, a warehouse employee pulled a few hands of tobacco from these piles at random. And then the warehouse owner usually looked at that and judged what the price should be and started a price. And then the auctioneer picked up that price and started this chant. And of course what he's doing is setting the price and raising it up by this chant here, by a certain percentage of a cent or 2 cents or whatever. And I don't know if you managed to pull it out, but there was Lord, sold Lord, sold RJ, and some things you might have been able to pick out here. So after the sale had been completed, ticket markers recorded the price of the tobacco, and then they were followed by bookmen or clipmen who wrote down the price, and then the bookmen had a particular talent. As Leonard said, the bookmen multiplied in their heads the price per pound by the number of pounds, and as a check, called their figures out aloud to each other. So they were doing this almost as fast as the tobacco was being sold, right behind them making these calculations. Then those sheets were carried to the business office, and the business office checked them for any errors. And at that point, if everything tallied up, the farmers could get their money. So the other thing was, before they got their money, the bookkeeper deducted 10 cents per 100 pounds for the weighing fee, 15 cents per 100 pounds for the auction fee, and 2.5% of the weight for the warehouse commission. Rapport observed, in his words, the experience of having the results of a year's labor sold in a few seconds to apparent mumbo-jumbo, for few farmers ever learned to follow a bid, has continued to draw intermittent and exasperated protests from tobacco growers. After this procession passed, farmers looked at the ticket for their price, for as Rapport suggested, few could decipher the auctioneer. They compared price with other farmers, and some were not happy. If they did not accept the price, they could tear their ticket and cancel the sale. The doubt they could move the pile of tobacco ahead of the sale and try again. Some people would just take their tobacco, like this man is doing, and roll it to another warehouse and try to get a better price for it. As soon as the auction was over, the workers moved in to move the tobacco off the floor, put it on the trucks, and carry it to the drying houses of the companies that had bought it. Despite the incomprehensible auctioneer chant, farmers were not unfamiliar with warehouse personnel. Indeed, many may have favored a warehouse because they knew a friend or relative who worked there. Many of the warehousemen, auctioneers, buyers, bookmen, warehouse workers grew up on tobacco farms, and even though they had escaped the labor-intensive rural work, they had been shaped by rural culture. During a season, the warehouse would hire from 50 to 75 hands. As Rapport observed, many of these people were out of tobacco. They didn't come from far off anywhere. And he said sometimes a buyer might recognize an old friend and raise the price a few cents. So the favorite strategy was to put a pretty dollar on the pile and hope the price would go up. But Leonard also said it was not a totally free market. He said the buyers worked together, drank together, and ate together. And every day the tobacco companies sent party bids in to the buyers, so there was a range that they could go between. But they all knew there was enough tobacco for